Hello, everyone. We're going to be kicking off the presentation here in maybe about 30 seconds. So we're just going to give a couple more minutes for some people to get logged in, and then we'll kick things off. But I will share my screen so that we get some of the technical things out of the way. Erika, can you confirm that you can see my screen?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, let me just. All right. Well, we'll wait a few, maybe we'll kick things off here in less than a minute, but actually we will just actually kick things off right now. So I know that people will be kind of coming into the presentation today, but just know that we will have a recording of this session. So certainly if anyone misses anything, we'll be able to share that with them. But excited to talk with everybody today. My name is Jason Smith, and we'll give a little bit more of an introduction into me and Erika Reid, who's on the call with me. But we're excited today to talk to you about the price and promotion is right. So understanding shopper behavior, trends, and preferences. So we'll spend a little bit of time, and I'll go through an agenda in a little bit, but we'll spend a little bit of time highlighting some of the numbers from our last full year of field work and talk about kind of some of the different implications. We'll keep it a little bit higher level. We're going to keep it more at the, at a national view and maybe department and some higher level category views. But certainly at the end, if you want to reach out to Erika and I and dig deeper into your retailer and your category, please let us know. But let me click to the next slide that gets into our agenda. So today we're going to spend a little bit of time. We're hoping to kind of spend around 30 minutes going through the slides and then leaving some time on the back end to talk about Q&A, if anyone has any questions. So I should mention, I believe, and I can't see it from my screen because I'm presenting, but I believe on the top there is a Q&A section that if you have any questions, just enter in your question there. And then our goal is at the end of the presentation to walk through those questions and make sure we answer them. If there are questions that you think of after the fact, we have our email address at the end, so that you can certainly reach out directly and ask us any questions you're interested in. So, but for today, here is our kind of rough plan of our presentation. So we'll kick things off. We'll give a quick introduction into Erika and myself. We'll talk a little bit about what we do at Shopper Intelligence and how we do it. And then Erika will actually dig into some price and promotional trends that we're seeing in our data. And then I'll end the slides with talking about different opportunities to optimize pricing and promotion. And then at the end, we'll do a quick Q&A. So if anyone, like I said, anyone has any questions, just enter it into the Q&A tab. I believe we immobilized chat, but just in case you put it in chat, we'll be looking at the Q&A tab. So if look to post any questions there. So here's a quick introduction. Again, I'm Jason Smith, and this is just a little bit of my background, and then I'll pass it over to Erika. But my background is a lot more on the category management, inside sales side. I spent most of my career at Hormel Foods and Colgate working on the CPG side, so working in various sales and category management roles. I also spent some time at In Context Solutions, a VR software company that works in the retail space, kind of some cool technology. And then most recently, I was at dunnhumby, where I led the North American category team. And let me introduce Erika, if you want to give a quick introduction of yourself.
Thank you, Jason. My name's Erika Reid. I'm a Category and Insights Director for Shopper Intelligence. I have quite a broad background across lots and lots of various categories. And in particular, soft drinks. I spent a few years at Britvic Soft Drinks in the UK market. And then Premier Foods, which is at the time I was on the bakery category. I also was a buyer for Ocado, which is a pure play online grocery retailer. And then in the last few years, I was a category insights and strategy person at Bayer, and then also at Threshold in the US on vitamins. So I'm really looking forward to presenting to you today.
Great. So here's a quick background on what we do at Shopper Intelligence. So let me click on all these so I don't skip ahead. So basically at Shopper Intelligence, we are a market research company that focuses on understanding shoppers' attitudes, motivations, drivers. Really the goal of our data is to complement a lot of the other behavioral data that's out there. So when I talk about behavioral data, that's really digging into what the shopper is doing, where they're buying, when they're buying, what they're buying. It's really that key data, especially as a category person. The what data is really kind of the core of understanding, the performance of a category, the leakage of a category, the loyalty. So it's very valuable. But the piece that is typically missing with understanding that is really why the shopper's doing it. And so that's where custom research, you think of consumer insights, shopper insights, people are studying that shopper and the consumer. And that's where our capabilities really fit in, is really understanding that shopper, trying to understand why they're actually doing what they're doing. And what makes us very unique is we run a large-scale syndicated shopper study where we're tracking over 100 categories. And I should preface this. I know we have some people that are calling in from different countries out there. Now, what we're talking about today is really the U.S. Scale of research that we're doing. We also have offices in about 10 other countries. So whether you're thinking of Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, UK, France, Canada, we have offices in a lot of different markets. So certainly if you are from some of those other markets and you want to reach out to me, I can certainly connect you with our local team there, and they can give you a much more of a background on what we're tracking in each individual market. Because obviously the US, we are a big market. We have a lot of channels, a lot of categories. But wait, like I said, what makes us unique is that we have standardized a lot of those questions that we're asking across key categories. So if I think of category management, we try to understand the role of a category, what's important to shoppers, their path to purchase. These are questions that we ask across all categories in the retailer. And so this is something that, since we've standardized those questions, we're able to compare categories and retailers and benchmark, compare, and rank them across the board. It gives us the ability to have that apples to apples comparison, which many times in research, we're doing projects kind of in isolation, and we don't have the ability of really comparing a category on one side of the store to another because they were done independently. Really, the goal of our program is really to standardize that so we can compare across the store. Now, what does this do for our clients? It gives them the ability to understand their shoppers much better. And that helps create much more of a shopper-centric approach when planning, out your categories at the headquarters, but also as you're partnering with your retail partners. This is something that helps with the planning. We think of planning for categories and channel strategies at the headquarters, but also, with the field teams trying to collaborate with retailers. We're most commonly used with insights category teams, but we're also very common with trade marketing, RGM, shopper marketing, and sales departments, as they're collaborating both internally and externally. Now, what are some of the insights that we are tracking? So one of the things there's 4 different sections here, and within each section, there's a lot of different measures that we're tracking. Overall, we're tracking about 150 different measures on the US shopper on a quarterly basis. So every quarter we're in field talking to the shopper. There's a little bullet at the end of this that talks about the scale, but last year we surveyed a little over 150,000 shoppers across 117 categories and 70 different retailers. And I'll give you a quick view into what some of those retailers are. But some of the measures that we're looking at, one section we call category DNA. So this dives into the role of the category. How does it fit within each retailer? It helps us define strategies and tactics at the retailer level, within a category. So we can drill into that individual category to understand kind of how it fits within that retailer. Let me go hit another button. There we go. We also understand the wants and needs of the shopper. We'll talk a little bit about this today, kind of digging into price and promotion. How important is price and how satisfied is a shopper on that? So we're able to drill in and really give a complete scorecard across 19 different levers in the category. One of them is price. And then some of the others are, and we'll show them a little later, but you think of natural and organic, brands, innovation. We get an idea of what's truly important to that shopper, and then how is that retailer doing against it. Oops, sorry. Then path to purchase. This is something where we understand, was it planned? Was it unplanned? What triggered you to buy? What were you planning to buy? So we're talking to shoppers, trying to understand, that overall shopper path to purchase. And that's, used by shopper marketing, trade marketing, promotional teams, but also category and insights teams to understand around strategies. And then this last section is kind of a catch-all, and there's going to be a couple of newer questions that we've added over the last couple of years that we're going to be highlighting that fall into this bucket. But we do a full demographic of the shopper, understanding who they are and kind of everything about them that we can. And then we get an idea around some other questions. So we'll talk a little bit about how open are you to private label and maybe expandable consumption opportunities. And we'll get into some specific questions around how sensitive they are to price, which will be relevant for our conversation today. But overall, and I think it shows up here in the bottom here, we're able to capture a lot of these similar questions across all the shoppers that we survey. Now, we do customize the categories. We drill into specific brands and segments and even add in custom questions. But certainly, probably 85% of the questions that we survey are asked across every category at every retailer. So it allows us to compare and benchmark. Now, these are the retailers and channels that we do the vast majority of our field work. There are some that are missing, but you can get an idea of the cross-section of different fast-moving consumer goods and CPG retailers that we're tracking. So to give you an example, if we were tracking a category, we would not only be able to track that category within that retailer and understand kind of what makes it unique within the retailer, but we'd also track that category at a couple dozen other retailers to be able to compare and contrast that category. And because our data is collected outside, this is not a retailer panel. It's something that we can actually share with retailers, and there's no masking of the data. So we have many of our clients, and as well as Erika and I have done this many times, where we're sitting at a retailer talking about their category and able to talk about some of their competitors and really scorecard them and show them kind of where their opportunities lie. A little bit of an eye chart here, but these are the current categories that we're tracking. So there are 15 different departments. I think 118 categories that are on the list. Most of these, if not, probably almost all of these have been tracked quarterly for the last 3 or 4 years. So we have, an ongoing trend of how the shopper attitudes and behaviors and motivations have changed over the years. I mean, this was actually very interesting when COVID hit. A lot of our data took huge swings, and then it sort of normalized. And now we're seeing kind of huge shifts because of the pricing and inflation. So we'll talk a little bit about some of those trends in Erika's section, but then I will do one more click. Sorry. The rest of Erika's going to dive into a few more measures, kind of digging into pricing and promotion. So thanks, Erika.
Thank you, Jason. If you could just click on for me, that'd be great.
Yep. You see this? Did the slide move for you? Hopefully.
Yes, it did. It
okay, good. I was worried.
Delay, by the way.
Okay.
So one of the things that probably everyone has seen in the last year in particular, and the last 2 years, is really all those discussions that we've all been having about inflation. One of the things that we noticed is that not necessarily the food price inflation has not necessarily come down, especially when it comes to out of home as well as in home, really. And so that's what some of these headlines are about. That over the last couple of years, people are still really feeling that that food price inflation is something that that they are really feeling in their pockets. Also, most recently, you can see here on the bottom right, Supermarket News put out a headline that the USDA has basically predicted that grocery food prices will continue to increase in most categories in 2024. So it's going to continue to be an issue for a lot of our shoppers going forward. So what we did, that you will see on the next slide, is that we actually looked at that consumer price index change, which is the blue line that we plotted over time. And then we plotted that against one of our survey questions that we posed to our shoppers, which is around importance of price. So we ask them actually a range of levers, and one of the levers is, how important is price to you in this particular category? And that is a score out of 5, which is kind of those that scale that you can see on the left-hand side in red. And I also plotted that over time. So here you can see actually the importance of price continue to rise, especially once that last stimulus payment kind of ended up in everyone's accounts, sort of in, what was that, Q4 of 2021. You can see that importance of price still continue to rise. And even now, even though that blue line with the consumer price index has come down, actually that importance of price has continued to rise. And also, that might also be because as interest rates has been increasing, whilst the index has come down in terms of that inflation, people potentially, anyone that needed to borrow any money will be feeling that in their pocket because they were having to pay more for their interest rates and any borrowing that they've had to make. So really that importance of prices is going to be continued to be an issue potentially. If you could move on. Thank you. So we have actually a range of questions that we ask shoppers around price. And one of the questions we ask is, what role did price play in your purchase decision? Actually, this is a fairly new survey question. It started in about 2022 for us. So that's why you can only see 2 years of data here. But in 2023, you can see almost half of shoppers said that price played a strong or a very strong role in their purchase decision. So again, something that shoppers are really quite concerned about. And then what I did was I actually looked at this and I broke it down by total brick and mortar and total online, and then total online with, and we can even look at home delivery or store pickup. I could even also look at this by a particular retailer if I wanted to. But essentially, you can see actually that online has had an even larger increase in shoppers that have said that that price plays as strong or a very strong role. And I was quite surprised that it was store pickup actually that was driving a lot of that online number. I guess people can go in store once they've picked it up and are potentially more price conscious for that store pickup as well. We just wanted to showcase some of that store pickup number because it was quite interesting. And so one of the other questions that we ask our shoppers is around promotions. So we ask shoppers, for example, did you buy when you went and did your purchase, which is usually it has to be in the last 7 days, did you actually buy on promotion? If they said yes, then we ask them further follow-up questions regarding that purchase. So this is actually a huge drop. You can see almost 10% of shoppers that said that of those promotional shoppers, so they had bought on promotion, and then the significant number of them said that they only bought on promotion. So 67% of the promotional shoppers bought only because of the promotion in 2021. But you can see there's almost a 10-point drop to 2023. So converting those shoppers via promotions is becoming far more challenging, is what we're seeing in the data. So promotions are having to work harder. And so that is a challenging position for anyone to have to think about their promotional strategy. And then we ask a further question of those people that only bought on promotion. We actually ask them, had you actually intended to buy that category now or in the near future at that particular retailer? And you can see here that over those 2 years, actually those truly incremental purchases. So basically there was an 8% drop in shoppers that said that they hadn't actually intended to buy the category now or in the near future. Again, it shows that shoppers are having to reduce their discretionary spend. We can drill down into like a department or a category at a particular retailer. This is just all retailers. So here you can see like basically an overall roll up. So we actually looked at which departments actually saw a big drop. So this is actually ranked in the highest amount of drop. So the biggest drop actually came from pet care. I think that was around the 15% mark, and then household products, baby, alcohol, and HABA. And those are the departments with the biggest drop in incremental purchases. I was quite surprised about some of this because to me, some of these are potentially non-discretionary departments. So especially if you have a pet, but potentially if you don't have a pet that you normally buy something for, you might not buy that pet present for your friend who has a pet. So that's where we saw a lot of the drop in those incremental purchases of people that would have bought hadn't planned on buying at all. And then if you could move on to the next. What we also can look at is that overall satisfaction number. And what we actually do is we have different levers that we ask people about in terms of both importance and also their satisfaction for those levers. And we roll them up into these buckets that you can see. So at the very bottom there, you can see all the different levers that we might have and then how we roll them up into those buckets. And you can see that over the last couple of years, price in particular has had the biggest hit. So almost 3% drop in that satisfaction number. And then also on the product side, potentially, so a slight drop. But these actually, there were some areas where the retailers have really tried really hard especially on improving those out of stock. So you can see there actually satisfaction was up on the execution side of things. So out of stocks, shelf layout, finding things in the store and enjoying it potentially. There actually satisfaction is risen, as well as on the range. So we're now in that on that assortment side, innovation and brands and the breadth of assortment, there's been an increase in satisfaction. But that overall satisfaction is down. We actually weight that overall satisfaction number by the importance as well. So it's actually a really good way to actually look at satisfaction. It's not just a pure satisfaction number. It's also weighted by how important that particular lever is to the shopper. And then what we did was I looked a little bit at that price satisfaction, and I drilled down into the different departments, and I ranked those departments. And that's what you can see here. So top ranked department for price satisfaction was alcohol. And then grocery, paper, household, and frozen. So those were the top 5 categories for shoppers saying that they were actually quite satisfied with prices. The next sort of 5 departments were around bakery, dairy, beverages. So that was kind of the middle of the ground, those departments. But then in the red, those departments are the ones that were the bottom sort of quartile. So the bottom 5 departments in terms of rank of prices. So especially meat has been hit quite hard in terms of price satisfaction. So you can see there it's about 11th. And then general merchandise is 15th, snacking 12th, baby 13th, and pet care 14th. So a lot of those are not necessarily discretionary categories. So that is something that is, that you should be mindful of. But I think also on the opportunity side, you'll hear Jason talk a little bit about how you could potentially drill down into the categories to help you understand some of the prioritizing that you could do for price. And I will hand back to Jason, I think, at this stage.
Yes. Thanks, Erika.
Thank
you.
So
we'll spend the last part just talking about some different ways to optimize your investment around pricing and promotion. And what I will always say is there's a lot of different tools out there. I've used a lot of tools around pricing and promotion in my past life, whether you were just looking at the performance of promotions or kind of looking at, there's a regression analysis. There's a lot of different data out there. And so what I always recommend is taking all the data that you have and trying to link them together to kind of find the best solution. Because if you have data that's kind of showing you performance of price and promotion and maybe some other measures, try to leverage that kind of in conjunction with maybe some of our data as well. Okay, so here are some 3 key opportunities to prioritize investment as we kind of dig into this a little bit more. And we'll show some more data and some examples of some categories and departments as well. So the first one is really understand the role of the category. Every category has a role at a retailer. Some are effective at bringing people into the store. Others are better at building the basket. So understanding kind of what that role is and what things work well will help us kind of optimize, where those categories that we truly need to win on price, or maybe some other categories where maybe we need to focus on innovation or education or theater. There's a lot of different things that a retailer can do. Obviously, with private label, there's a definite overlap with private label shoppers and national brand shoppers, and certainly what we've seen as this importance of price goes up, we've seen certainly a kind of an elevation of that openness to buy private label, but it definitely depends on the category. So certainly in some of those more commoditized categories or the strong private label categories, as manufacturers, you have to probably be a little bit more concerned about it, because you got to show more value. And that's something that on a retailer side, retailers are looking for that opportunity to kind of drive that trip to their retailer and get the shopper to buy the category. And then the last bullet here, know what's important to your category shopper and what is underperforming. So Erika talked a little bit about this with the importance and satisfaction, but try to understand what's truly important and then where to win, because you can't win on everything. You have to prioritize what you can do. Most people have finite amount of budgets and time and resources. So we always say, try to find those things that are going to have that max benefit to invest in. So we'll show a few numbers here in the next couple of slides. So but the first part, when I talked about the role of a category, we do this a couple of different ways at Shopper Intelligence. But one of the ways is we call it our category matrix. So we plot categories on a 2x2 chart where the y-axis here is differentiation. So I'll define that on the next slide. So you can see here, the y-axis is differentiation. So we take a number of questions that we ask shoppers to understand how willing are they to pay more, how much of a retailer loyalty driver is this particular category, and then how willing are shoppers to browse. So if they're willing to browse, if they're willing to pay more, if it's very important to the retailer's loyalty, it gives the retailer an opportunity to differentiate themselves and kind of, you know, make themselves unique to the shopper in the category. Now, the other, oh, sorry, I went the wrong way. But the other axis, the x-axis, is intentionality. So is this something that is driving traffic to the store? Is this the main reason you went shopping today? So is this a category that's really drawing those people to the retailer, either online or in store? Are promotions effective at encouraging the shop and kind of converting the shopper? And then also, is the shopper highly planned? I mean, we ask shoppers, you know, were you planned or unplanned? What triggered you to buy? And certainly there are categories where people are highly intentional, and then other ones that are a little less. I mean, I think of confectionery and ice cream. Many of those categories, you might not be planning on buying it, but somehow it still ends up in your cart by the time you leave the store. Okay, so the other thing I want to mention is based on the quadrant. So we'll show you a quick chart that kind of plots all of the categories on this chart, but based on where a category falls, we have certain strategies and tactics and recommendations that we give to our clients in terms of what this means. So if you, just to give you an example, if a category is highly differentiated and also the shopper is not very intentional, really the goal is to try to trigger the shopper. You know, it's something that a retailer has an opportunity, but maybe the shopper needs to be reminded. And so these are things where there is an opportunity to prioritize displays and theater in the store to kind of wow, to get the shopper's attention. And then there's also an opportunity to get them to trade up and to buy more. It's something that, you know, they're willing to browse, they're willing to look around. And so creates that kind of promotional strategy as well on what are those things that you should be focusing on. Now, this will vary depending on the quadrant, but this just kind of, and these aren't even all the implications that we typically have. It definitely, we can drill into a lot more detail, but this just kind of gives you the high level view of kind of at a high level, you know, when we're thinking about a role, what are those things that we need to prioritize for our category? So here's a quick example of each one of these blue dots or blue diamonds, as well as there's some red diamonds on here too, but each one of those is actually a category. Now, this is done at a total US level. So we always recommend, and this is definitely something that we highly recommend, is that you run this at your individual retailer, because that will give us the best idea of how that category is viewed by shoppers in that channel or retailer. If we do it at national level, certainly it can depend on where the category falls. I mean, I always use the example of, we work with a large toilet paper company, and toilet paper within the grocery channel is very different than it would be at club or at dollar. So you just have to understand that your category might mean something different at different retailers, and then based off of that, you should obviously customize your strategies on that. So we're going to give you a quick view into what those red dots are. So we'll give you an example of each one here, which is, you know, here are 4 different categories. They fall into each individual bucket. I mean, from my life working at Colgate, you know, toothpaste is kind of a unique category. I worked more on the grocery retailer. So toothpaste meant something different at, let's say, a Wegmans or a Giant Eagle than it would be to a Target shopper or a Walmart shopper or a drug shopper. And so you just have to know, based on, you know, what the shoppers feel and kind of the opportunity there, you know, you need to kind of customize your strategies. So then the other question that we want to drill into is really understanding private label. So this is a question that we ask across every category, you know, to understand how open are you to consider, you know, private label products at that retailer. So you can see here, and this isn't the number 1 to number 118. We just wanted to highlight a couple of those categories